Can a one-pole breaker replace a two-pole breaker in solar? Protection, cable heating, and fault isolation explained. You got to the market, your installer requested a two-pole breaker, but only one pole breaker was available. Now the question is, if I use this one pole breaker that I'm seeing on the market, will it still protect my cable, inverter, and solar system? The honest answer is yes in some situations, and unfortunately no in others. Let us break it down properly. What a breaker is actually protecting. A breaker is mainly there to protect the circuit from excessive current. That means it protects the cable, the equipment, and the system connection. For example, if your cable is rated for 20 amps and 35 amps tries to pass through it, the breaker should trip before the cable insulation overheats. So, if the breaker is correctly sized, both a one pole and two pole breaker can protect against overload. That part is not the major difference. Will a one pole breaker protect a heating cable? It depends on why the cable is heating. If the cable is heating because too much current is flowing, yes, a correctly sized one pole breaker can trip. A correctly sized two pole breaker can also trip. But if the cable is heating because of a loose terminal, bad lock, poor crimp, rust, or weak connection, the breaker may not trip. Why? Because the total current may still be normal. The heat is local. The breaker is not designed to detect every bad connection. So why diffuse about the two-pole breaker being used in the solar? This is where two-pole becomes important. In solar, protection is not only about overload, it is also about isolation. Solar panels can produce power whenever sunlight is available. If you use a one-pole breaker, it disconnects only one conductor, but a two-pole breaker disconnects both conductors at the same time. That gives safer isolation during fault, maintenance, and troubleshooting. So the advantage of two-pole is not just stripping, it is complete disconnection. What happens during a fault? Imagine there is isolation damage or moisture enters a junction box or a cable fault develops. With a one-pole breaker, one side may disconnect, but the other side may remain live. The system may look off, but part of the circuit can still hold voltage. With a two-pole breaker, both sides are opened together. That makes fault control safer and cleaner. You asked for the real difference, so let us make it simple. For overload protection, a correctly sized one-pole breaker can work. For complete solar DC isolation, a two-pole breaker is better. For heating caused by poor workmanship, neither one-pole nor two-pole breakers can save you. This is why proper crimping, tight terminals, correct lungs, and good cable sizing are just as important as the breaker itself. My final verdict. Can a one pole breaker protect cable from overload? Yes. Can it strip when excessive current flows? Yes. Can it stop heating from loose terminals or bad crimping? No. Can a two pole breaker stop this bad connection heating problems? Also no. But can a two pole breaker give better isolation and safer solar fault management? Yes. So if the design requires a two pole breaker, do not replace it permanently with a one pole breaker, because in solar you need both overcurrent protection and proper isolation. Correct protection is not just about whether the system works today, it is about whether the system remains safe when something goes wrong. So if the design requires a two pole breaker, do not replace it permanently with a one pole breaker, because in solar you need both overcurrent protection and proper isolation. Correct protection is not just about whether the system works today, it is about whether the system remains safe when something goes wrong. Thanks for watching. Do like, share, and subscribe.